The fluorescent lights in the women's clinic buzzed overhead, washing everything in a pale blue glare. A few cheap chairs lined the waiting area, and the walls were decorated with posters about prenatal care and infant vaccinations. But none of that mattered to Danielle Parker, who sat with one hand resting protectively on her round belly, the other gripping a crumpled appointment slip. She was 32, glowing with the kind of tired beauty that comes with motherhood in motion. Her skin, deep and warm like polished mahogany, had a faint sheen of sweat. The July heat outside had pressed into her like a blanket, and even in the air-conditioned office she felt the weight of summer and something heavier. Judgment. She'd felt it the moment she walked in, the receptionist's hesitation, the way other patients glanced at her, then away. But she was used to that. Ever since she moved with her husband Marcus to the predominantly white suburb outside Atlanta, she'd learned to read the signs, the long stares, the tight smiles, the silence that said too much. She adjusted her dress slightly and checked her phone. Still no reply from Marcus. He was on a conference call, pitching their tech startup's new app to investors in Boston. He wanted to be here, but timing was tight. "I'll try to come," he'd said that morning, "but if I can't, just record everything. Ask all the questions. You've got this, Danny." Danielle had nodded. She always did. She was strong, independent. But today her feet were swollen, her back ached, and this clinic wasn't her usual OB/GYN. Their insurance had changed, and this was the only facility in-network that could take her on short notice. "Danielle Parker?" a nurse called. Danielle stood slowly and followed the woman through the hallway. "We'll be in exam room 2, the nurse said with a flatness that felt more like procedure than welcome. Danielle walked into the room and sat on the cold paper-covered table, hands folded. 10 minutes passed, then 15. She was just about to knock on the door and ask when it creaked open. Dr. Stephen Calloway walked in, late 40s, salt and pepper hair, clipboard in hand. His eyes met hers, and something unreadable flickered behind them. He didn't smile. "Name?" he asked, without checking the chart. "Danielle Parker," she replied, a bit cautiously. 32 weeks today." He hummed, disinterested, scanned her form. "You're late," he muttered. "I was here 15 minutes early," Danielle said, surprised. The nurse took a while. "Do you have a history of gestational diabetes, hypertension, drug use?" he interrupted, his tone clinical and cold. "No," Danielle said quietly. He grunted again. "First baby?" "No, second. We lost the first at 5 months due to—" "You don't look 32 weeks," he said sharply. "Your weight's on the higher end." "Have you been following nutritional guidelines?" "I have," she said firmly. "And I've been exercising. I even brought—" "Do you have Medicaid?" he asked suddenly. Danielle blinked. "No. I have private insurance through my husband." The doctor raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" "Yes," she said slowly, heart pounding. "We own a company." His lips curled into something that might have been a smirk. "You'll forgive me. That's uncommon." Danielle felt heat rise to her face. "Uncommon for what?" "For someone like you," he said, scribbling something on the chart. And there it was, the slap beneath the surface, the insult without profanity, the quiet cruelty wrapped in professionalism. The message was clear. You don't belong here, not in this room, not with that insurance, not with your pride. Danielle sat still, her baby fluttering inside her like it sensed the tension. "Doctor," she said quietly, "is there something wrong with the baby?" He looked up. "Nothing I can see. But if something were wrong, you might have missed it, coming in late, switching providers." Danielle's throat tightened. I did everything right. Maybe, he said, turning to leave. We'll see you next week, assuming your husband can cover it. He left without another word. Danielle sat there, stunned. 1,000 emotions surged at once: embarrassment, anger, fear, but most of all, a feeling she hadn't felt in years: helplessness. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her dress, stood up slowly, and walked out of the exam room like she was moving through fog. She didn't even notice the familiar figure entering the lobby until she heard the voice. "Hey," Marcus said gently. "I made it." She turned and broke. Marcus Parker hadn't seen his wife cry like that in a long time, not since they lost their first child, not since the long nights filled with sterile hospital lights and whispered prayers. Seeing Danielle now, trembling in the clinic hallway, trying to look composed as she wiped her tears with one hand and cradled her belly with the other, made something inside him twist. He rushed to her. "Danny, what happened?" She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. She shook her head. "Let's just go." Marcus looked around. 2 nurses at the desk avoided eye contact. The door to exam room 2 stood open. Everything felt off. "Tell me," he said gently. Danielle took a breath. "He humiliated me. The doctor. He questioned if I was on Medicaid, said I didn't look like I was 32 weeks, asked if I used drugs. He talked to me like I didn't belong here, like I was nothing." Marcus felt the heat rise. "What did you say to him?" "Nothing," she whispered. I froze. I've never been talked to like that in years. His hands curled into fists, but he kept calm. "Wait here." "No," Danielle said quickly. "Don't make it worse, please." He looked at her and nodded, but he wasn't walking away. He walked calmly to the front desk. "Excuse me," he said. "I'd like to speak to Dr. Calloway." "He's with another patient," the receptionist said. "I'll wait," Marcus replied, his voice calm but firm. After several minutes, Dr. Stephen Calloway emerged. "Can I help you?" he asked. "You saw my wife?" Marcus said. "And you are?" the doctor asked. "Marcus Parker, Danielle's husband, the one who pays for the insurance you apparently questioned." The doctor stiffened. "I treat hundreds of patients. I don't recall—" Marcus cut him off. "You made assumptions based on her skin, her clothes, her silence. You didn't read the chart. You treated her like a statistic." The front desk went quiet. "I assure you, I follow standard medical—" "No, you don't," Marcus said. "You profile, you humiliate, and when caught, you hide behind procedure. But today, you picked the wrong woman. Because I'm not just her husband. I'm the CEO of a company that builds compliance software for private health systems. And I just hit record." He lifted his phone. The doctor's face paled. "In less than 10 minutes, this will be on the desk of every hospital administrator in your network, along with a complaint to the state board and a copy to the press, unless you fix this." "That's not necessary," the doctor stammered. "Apologize," Marcus said. "Not to cover yourself, but because it's the human thing to do. I didn't mean to cause distress." "You did," Marcus replied. "So what now?" After a pause, the doctor looked toward Danielle. "Mrs. Parker, I apologize. I was rushed. I misjudged. It was unprofessional." Danielle said quietly, "You didn't see—" "Come on, we're done here." They walked out together. Once in the parking lot, Danielle finally exhaled. "You didn't have to do all that." "I did," Marcus said. "Because I won't let the world shrink you." She smiled. "You didn't just stand up for me. You reminded me I still matter." Marcus looked at her. "You've always mattered." The following morning, Marcus sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, phone buzzing beside a half-finished cup of coffee. Danielle moved quietly in the background, rubbing her belly, more at peace than she'd been in days. But there was still something unsaid between them, something that hovered like fog on a still lake. Marcus had already filed the formal complaint. His email included a transcript, the recording, and a detailed description of the clinic's atmosphere. It was calm, respectful, not revenge, but accountability, and he wasn't done. At 11:07 a.m., his phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. "Mr. Parker, this is Elise Tran from the Board of Medical Integrity. May we speak at your earliest convenience?" He called back within minutes. Elise was concise and professional. "We've received your report. It's not the first complaint involving Dr. Calloway." That sentence alone made Marcus's gut sink. She continued, "But it's the most thoroughly documented. The recording, well, frankly, it leaves no room for misinterpretation." "So what happens next?" he asked. "We're placing Dr. Calloway on administrative leave, pending a full investigation. He will not return to clinical duties during this period." "Thank you," Marcus said quietly. "I didn't want this to happen to someone else." "It already has," Elise replied, "but now it won't again." That evening, Danielle sat on their porch as the sun dipped below the rooftops. She held a letter in her hands, not from the clinic, not from the board, but from another patient. The envelope was simple, the handwriting shaky. "To the woman who stood tall by simply surviving," it began. "I was at the clinic that day. I heard what he said to you, and I didn't speak up. I've been going to him for years, tolerating the same tone, the same judgment. But you walking out with your head high, that gave me the courage to find my voice. I reported him too. I finally stood up. Thank you for that." Danielle folded the letter and pressed it to her chest. "Marcus," she said, tears in her eyes, "we changed something." He stepped out, sat beside her, and nodded. "No one changes the world in one moment, but one moment can start it." She leaned into him. "Promise me something. Anything. When our daughter is born, a small community clinic opened its doors on the edge of town. It bore no name of fame or fortune, just a sign that read, 'Dignity First, Women's Health and Wellness.' Danielle was among the first guest speakers during the ribbon cutting, not because she was a doctor or a nurse, but because she knew what it felt like to be unseen. Marcus stood proudly beside her, not just as her husband, but as her witness. In the crowd were patients, families, community leaders, and a few faces from that waiting room months ago. Even Elise Tran came down from the city. Danielle's speech was short. "Dignity isn't earned, it's owed. Every person, every color, every background. Let this place be a reminder. Prejudice shrinks where courage rises." As applause followed, a little girl ran up the aisle and hugged Danielle's leg. Her mother whispered, "She said she wants to be a doctor now, like the good ones." Danielle knelt and smiled at the girl. "You already are." The clinic's doors swung open, and for the first time in a long time, no one feared what waited behind it. Moral: we don't always get justice through power. Sometimes it arrives through the quiet courage of being seen, believed, and not backing down. Kindness and dignity are not optional. They are the foundation of true healing.